Good morning, fellow Ambazonians. Today, na number 6 day for number 9 month of the year 2022. My name na Capo Daniel, the Deputy Defense Chief and the spokesman of the Ambazonian Governing Council, aka Sense Past King, our own countryman. Una welcome to our daily podcast, a program where they bring una meaningful information, the truth, facts-based analysis for help we as we work for this journey to our freedom, to the independence of Ambazonia. Good citizens of Ambazonia, today we enter the beginning of Ambazonian Community School. Once more, we are at the crossroad where Ambazonians face each other with a bunch of people led by somebody who call himself Supreme in Kondengi, declaring a lockdown over our territory that have been rejected and today have been opposed by the Governing Council. The last time the Ambazonian Defense Forces declared a lockdown for the purpose to facilitate the movement of our soldiers across our national borders to carry out Operation Sunrise. The same faceless individuals who represents this Supreme in Kondengi, they came out to make a video to say to our people there is no lockdown. Are we again at each other's throat? One Ambazonian called Master P reached out with his comment. Listen.
Comrade Capo, I salute you. This one, Comrade Master P. I don't just listen to your video now where they try to talk say lockdown no day. But Capo, I want to make we understand something. Me and you, we know very well say we get factions for this struggle. We get factions for this struggle. And all of these factions they fight for supremacy. They fight for relevance. All man want be relevant. All man want to be like say no, na me are they in charge. But wait, all of these factions that they fail for understand and say wait, civilian they dey for ground way now they suffer. And when you look, most of these factions all of them they get soldiers for ground. All of them they get soldiers for ground. Okay, take for example what we happened the other day. We ADF, we Ifang toxic ghost town day. Other people then come out from other side. Oma say other factions they come out and talk say no ghost town no day.
That was a message from Master P, an Ambazonian activist. What Ambazonians should understand is that the egg of C is not an individual. General Ifang is not an individual. Capo Daniel is not an individual. We are an institution that have been properly mobilized. A group of Ambazonians from the diaspora to ground zero, to the refugee camps, to Kondengi, from the civil society to all walks of life that have been properly constituted to reflect our nationalism. When we speak, these individuals do not speak. They speak for an organization that is on the ground. The organization that is in multiple states, working in concert, in collaboration. What Master P says is the truth about the perception of what is happening. Something that should never happen. Ambazonians fighting for political relevance, making decisions not based on the success of our independence, but based on their ability for them to gain political relevance. We have been accused by this again and again. And I can assure Ambazonians that while other factions make decisions for the primary purpose of political relevance, the Ambazonian Governing Council have never and will never take decision for the sole purpose to become politically relevant. When we came to ground zero and recruited fast fighters and stayed in the forest for 9 months to train them and give them a military political ideology of block by block, it was not because we were seeking for relevance, Yes, it is true that people are taking decisions for political relevance and activists are making decisions because they want to have a voice. This is wrong. You cannot do this when people are dying, where our people are suffering. You cannot suffer the same people you are claiming to liberate in this manner. You cannot be driven by motivations that are egoistic and partisans. That is not keeping Ambazonian first. We will suffer to prove ourselves to our people instead to demonstrate ourselves as people who are fighting for their own people. When the Ague of Sea declared lockdown, it was not because we wanted to prove political relevance. It was because General Efang was mobilizing forces across our national territory to carry out Operation Sunshine. In Bamenda, we have laid the foundation. We have had a track record where Ambazonians can swear by the Ague of Sea that these are a group of dedicated individuals dedicated to Ambazonian nationalism. These are a group of the never again generation who have decided that Cameroon reign in Ambazonia must end, come rain, come sun. This group that have declared lockdown, that is headed by Ewane and Njemaike, with one guy called Supreme, who is in Kondengi, 24 hours on his phone. It has been publicized. They have removed some of them to sit and bring them back. If any Ambazonian will assume that Cameroon will allow somebody who is presenting himself as a soldier, giving instruction on the ground to soldier, actively prosecuting a war and directing a war in Kondengi for 24/7 every single day, coordinating the making of videos, if anybody will be so naive to think that he's not doing so with the explicit permission of La Republique, that person must be drinking a 4-4. In this video today, I'm going to put the picture of Njemaike, one of the pillars and the current admin of this group called Ambazonian Generals and Commanders on the Ground, with him putting on the t-shirt of the Cameroon Peace Ambassadors, an extended hand of the DDR Center in Kondengi, for you to see. Their decisions are not driven by common sense because it does not make sense to Ambazonia. You want to lock down Ambazonia, to lock down your own community schools. You want to change the date for school resumption after independent days. Does it not ring a bell to Ambazonians the purpose why they are taking the decisions they are taking? Just like Master P said, is for political relevance that undermines Ambazonian independence and nationalism. We have come through a period where Chris Anu used excessive lockdown for the sole purpose of fighting for supremacy. Where have that led him? Where have that led the soldiers that were under them? They were driven by anger so deep for political relevance that they threatened every single general on the ground by the name for annihilation and assassination. Chris Anu, Professor So, came out and said personally they will work with Cameroon to give Cameroon intelligence about where we buy weapons. And they did. How many soldiers have been arrested? How many were killed? How many were slaughtered? You cannot take decisions and make decisions on the basis of partisanship. This is the opening statement of every meeting that we have had with the governing council chaired by Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba. Ambazonians can be rest assured that while it is true that others are fighting for political relevance, their vanguard, the Ague of Sea, is fighting for the people and for the independence of the people of Ambazonia. Just because you are bad and you have bad intention, you should not assume that everybody else is doing the same thing. Just because the IG in the diaspora, their leadership in the diaspora, is corrupt and brought nothing but shame and scandal to the Ambazonian people, you should not assume that every other organization is doing the same thing. The failure of one is not the failure of all. We do not even celebrate their failure. We cry for the death of Phil Masha, Oliver Leke, like he was one of us, because we are patriot. And you will turn around the brother of Oliver Leke, somebody who was killed using his own. His skull was smashed with the barrel of a gun. His body is carried like a bunch of potatoes to our city square in Kumba and humiliated. It was a disgrace to Ambazonia. an attempt to humiliate our people and demoralize them, his brother would turn the same day and call valiant soldiers that are fighting for Ambazonia, who have died in battle, that they are La Republique. The same people, La Republique, who kill your own brother. Oh, my country people, the wicked black man syndrome. This is witchcraft. This is evil, but we must overcome this evil and stupidity that have made us being seen not as liberator, but by people fighting against their own people, that have made us to be in a vulnerable position where the enemy have been able to convince our people to align with them and fight against us, where our population have risen up because of manipulation of the enemy in Babanki, in Oku, and many other places, because La Republique to Cameroon was capable of exploiting this Ambazonian jealousy, envy, witchcraft, and primitivity. The era of all these vices has come to an end. Today in Ambazonia, we will open our doors of our schools. We will open our businesses. We will drive our taxis. We will uphold Ambazonian nationalism by rejecting La Republique du Cameroon and proving to the world that no student have walked freely to school with their uniform, because our people have aligned for their aspiration of independence. Thus, indeed, the boys who carry this gun are representative and reflective of the masses and the massive majority. They will not make the narrative that our people are cornered between La Republique du Cameroon extremists and Ambazonian extremists. The narrative that La Republique have been pushing through Abobala, we cannot afford playing in the hands and the narrative of the enemy. When we have the chance, they parade the issue of the General Assembly in the United Nations. It is coming up. What other way can we show the world that have been complaining about education, that we Ambazonians, we have been fighting for education, not against education, but Ambazonian indigenous education? How else can we prove to them? And how else can La Republique stop us from proving to them? But by using some hoodlums, some ngongong heads amongst us, to push an agenda that calls for the shooting down of private civilian aircraft. These are individuals who have called for us to attack the United Nations. They have called for us to close the Catholic Church, Presbyterian Church, and Baptist Church. They have called for an indefinite ban of schools. These are not people who think with their brain. These are people that La Republique wants to use to define Ambazonian liberation struggle, because they know if it is defined by these people driven by ego and power-centric, not nationalism, we will fail woefully. We will delay this liberation struggle for the next 40 years. That is the reason why I decided to publicly challenge them and tell our people to come out, not just as a rejection of backwardness, but to project the goodness. The good ones, the silent majority, must speak, and they are speaking through the governing council. The days when General Mba Ivor was drunken by confusion, lost by fighting and struggling to explain himself because he was faced with a wicked black man syndrome. ADF camps were disarmed, our flag was burned, not because we were doing anything wrong, but simply because we stand for common sense and reason. Our leader, who is a gentleman who is working hard for Ambazonia, was called an agent of La Republique, a jobless man, when we all know he's an entrepreneur, he's a professor, he's a selfless individual who have gone to ground zero, who came from ground zero, who have fought in ground zero and seen blood with his hands. We are the vanguards. We are the voice of the voiceless, the voice of reasoning, and the voice of the vast majority of 96% of Ambazonians who want independence, who want us to fight smart, who do not want infighting. We are not driven by infighting or partisanship. We are driven by love for country and nationalism. I cry for General Commando. I cry for General Ayeke. I cry for all those fallen heroes. I cry for Isobu and all those who have died with the foolishness of this few. Their reign is over. Today, Ambazonia in ground zero shall demonstrate that they have overcome this syndrome of wickedness, tribalism, and backwardness. And I'm confident that what I have heard from all the soldiers who have realized this mafia, who have realized this witchcraft, have come to the reason and to the right mindset to do the right thing. We will always be diverse. We will always have partisanship, but we cannot allow it to triumph over nationalism. We must put Ambazonian first, we must put our flag first, and we must put the land and our people's interests first. Not just the people, but the people's interests first, and the land, like General Efang said. The principle of war is putting the territorial integrity and the sovereignty first. We will not lose or concede an inch of Ambazonian territory. We will not lose or concede an inch of our nationalism and independence quest. We will not compromise. We will not blink. And today we are asking the population to make a statement that they want a sound mind, a liberation driven by the love for the people, the protection of the people, as the people will stand with us, as they have stood with us, for community education, as the Catholic Church, the Presbyterian Church, the Baptist Church have rejected their leaders to follow Ambazonian guidelines. We will stand with them. As the nurse and the doctors have denied La République du Cameroon collaboration to work with Ambazonia, we will stand with them. As the Bayam Selan have rejoiced in the Bamenda food market for seeing the end of Hesekam and their own Sansan boy carrying out their trash, we will stand with them. As our community teachers, they volunteer to set up community schools with their villages, in their villages, all across our territory, we will stand with them. As our people will reject Cameroon and accept our students to be able to express their nationalism, we will stand with them. We will not punish them. We will not, I pledge to you, take any decision based on partisanship. We are driven by common sense, and when we make mistake, we will admit. But if anybody have a dream that one day we will be frustrated, we will be distracted, and we will lose focus, and we will give up, that person have never seen the energy that flows in our blood. The voices of the thousands of Ambazonians, millions of them, who have been killed by Cameroon colonialism, that speaks to us every night, that energize our body, that have become an adrenaline for us to fight for our freedom. The voices of General Ivor still speaks to us clearly, like when he was alive. And we will stand, we will never back down until Ambazonia is free, until justice is given to Mami Apie, to our kids in Garbu, to Baby Mata, and the pastor of Mauto, who was slaughtered for hoisting an Ambazonia flag because God told him so. Yes, indeed, God did spoke to that pastor. It is time for Ambazonian freedom. Stand with the forces of good. Abandon evil, hatred, primitivity, and wickedness. Be driven by patriotism and nationalism. Today we reject the lockdown, not because we want others to fail, not because we want to challenge them, but because we know it is counterproductive and it will directly affect our ability to win. We do everything driven by love for country. Capo Daniel, signing off.